Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining, and we can start the session now. Just need a quick confirmation if my voice is loud and clear.
Yes, sir. Loud and clear, sir.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Thank you. All right, so we can start the session now. Description. Right. Perfect. So we have done the baseline in the last week. We understood the statistics, central tendency, understood dispersion, understood skewness, understood kurtosis, and we did the baselining in Excel as well as in Minitab. Now today, I am going to introduce you to the most important part of Six Sigma, which is hypothesis testing. And based on the hypothesis testing, how do we identify, is there any common cause of variation or is there any special cause of variation? So first thing we are going to learn about what is the common cause and what is the special cause of variation. And then with the help of hypothesis testing, we will identify either it's a common cause or it is a special cause of variation. So we'll start with an example. Let's say, suppose you have two team members. Let's say there is a person, here is a associate, let's say A, and there you have the second team member, associate B, in your team. Now, these people are doing some task. Suppose it's the same task and they are doing repeatedly. Maybe associate A is doing in 20 minutes, sometime 22 minutes, sometime 18 minutes, sometime 19 minutes, sometime 21 minutes. And you look for the average of this person. So average time this person is taking, let's say this is coming around 20 minutes. Now you have a second team member in your team, which is taking 20 minutes every time. And if you take the average of this data, this average is also 20 minutes. Looking at this data, let me ask you a simple question. You have to assign a new task to one of them. Whom will you choose and why? I could not hear.
Let B,
And why?
because of more consistent.
Okay.
Performance.
But average value is same.
Yeah, but always it is hitting the target. Whereas A is nearby that. Sometimes it is close to that, sometimes far away, and sometimes it's big.
Yes, Musabin, you can speak.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
Sir, I would suggest and I would select associate B, and reason being the data is very consistent and there is no chance of variation.
Yes, you are absolutely correct.
This
This data is consistent or will say no variation. Perfect. But here in this data, you see that this is consistent or there is no variation, and this is inconsistent and there is a variation. But this variation is very little, like as you can expect that this much of variation we can expect in a process. Sometime this level of consistency every time we cannot bring in the data like you have. Now I will take another example, and let's say this is your time to office. So we understood the variation, right? Time to office, you are taking like this, and maybe one fine day, suddenly you are taking 45 minutes. So like this is a common cause of variation. We are looking for more consistency, but every time getting the same consistencies may not be possible. Right? But nearby consistency we can get. But if such is the case, and still one fine day, like as you are taking to reach office around 45 minutes, what could happen the case here?
Its average will change.
Sorry, little louder, please.
Its average will be changed.
Yes, average will be changed. Definitely, average will change. So this variation, what you see, this variation is because of the common cause. Because every day you cannot reach per means like as an exactly in 20 minutes. Sometime you take 1 minute extra, sometime you take 1 minute less as well. But suddenly one day you are taking 45 minutes. That means something special happen on that day. Something special, so this will be caused your special cause of variation. On fine day, if you are taking a particular day around 45 minutes, then definitely, probably I will say that maybe you are driving your own vehicle. So there was a flat tire. Maybe there was a breakdown. Maybe there was a route diversion. Maybe there was an accident. Maybe there was any kind of possession, and many more reasons can be. Because of those reasons, you have taken 45 minutes. Right? Because of those reasons, you have taken 45 minutes. Now, question is, how do we identify, is this really a special cause of variation, yes or no? Maybe looking at a data, you can say something went wrong on there. But you have to validate this statistically. So to validate or find out this is a special cause of variation or not, we find out there are few basic data properties. First thing in the data, we check the normality of the data. Then we check the randomness of the data. And then we check the independence. Of the data. These are the three properties we check. And these three properties we check with the help of hypothesis testing. Hypothesis testing means statistical validation of the data. We will be checking this. All right. So what is the hypothesis testing? Any one of you have any idea about what is hypothesis, people? Any one of you want to explain me that what's the hypothesis? Yes, Musabbin, you can speak.
Sir, in the scientific approach, I studied that hypothesis is basically a statement which is not proven yet.
Correct. You are right.
मैं समझ में थोड़ी चीज शोर लगाए बैठा हूं बंद कर ही चुका हूं बड़ी
Hypothesis basically is a assumption. Hypothesis is a assumption. And when you are saying hypothesis testing, this means you are validating the assumption with the help of sample data. There are two types of hypothesis. One we call as a null hypothesis, and second we call as an alternate. So there are two types of hypothesis. because there is only two forms of any event to occur. Either the event will occur or the event will not occur, right? So hypothesis testing is the same. There are one, it is called as a null hypothesis. Null will say there is no difference. No difference means your assumption what you are making about the data is equal to actual. Both are same. What you assumed about the assumption is same. And we find out this validation with the help of hypothesis testing, and this will come in the form of p-value. P-value is the probability value based on the confidence level, which I explained you before. So confidence level, when you remember sample size calculation. So if you are taking whatever the risk, taking suppose 95% confidence level, you are taking the 5% risk. By default we take. And if your probability of the event occurring is greater than the risk level, greater than 5% or greater than 0.05, then this is called null hypothesis. When you are outside the risk level, then only we'll say there is no difference, which means what you have assumed, you got it. But there is a second probability, which we called as an alternate hypothesis. Alternate hypothesis means there is difference. Difference means assumption what you are making is not equal to actual. The assumption what you are making is not equal to actual, which means what risk you have taken, you are falling into the risk and your probability value will be less than or equal to 0.05. This is the simple validation we do in hypothesis. Let's take an example. Maybe let's say you all people join this training. So what was your assumption before you joined this training? And now you have the 5 days of data. So you understand how the actually training is going on. Correct? Probably I say on behalf of you, your assumption was that training will be good. This was your assumption. Actually, in case you feel that training is good. So do we see any difference here?
No difference.
There is no difference. And when there is no difference, what kind of hypothesis is?
Null.
Null hypothesis. And the p-value of this will be how much?
Greater than.
Greater than risk level of 5%. So we will be validating the data. There is a different type of hypothesis test we perform. And if your probability value is greater than 0.05, which means null hypothesis, and whatever the data you are comparing, if the probability value is greater than 0.05, right? Then it's a null hypothesis.
Training is good.
Are we good till here?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, there may be a second case. Assumption is training will be good. And maybe you are feeling that training is not good.
Sunna. Training is not good.
Please stay on mute if you are not speaking. And your assumption was training will be good, and actually training is not good. So do we see any difference in your assumption and actual? Answer is yes. And this kind of hypothesis, when there is a difference, we call as an alternate hypothesis. And we will say it is null or alternate only when we look at the p-value. And in case your p-value is less than equal to 0.05, then only we'll call this is a alternate hypothesis. Now I have to take a decision. Suppose decision here what? Practical decision. Suppose you are giving your feedback. And if you are aligned with the statistical decision, then there is no decision error. Right? So let's say decision error. If you are aligned with the statistical value, then there is no decision error. But if you are not aligned with the statistical value, then there is a decision error. So training will be good was your assumption. Actually, training is good. There is no difference. It's a null hypothesis. And we decided this based on the p-value as it was greater than 0.05. Now you are giving me the feedback. Yes, Pankaj, training is good. So you are aligned perfectly with your statistical decision. So you are not making any decision error. Now, if you feel training is not good and you are giving me the feedback, training is not good, again you are aligned with the statistical decision and practical decision, both are same. So there is no decision error. Decision error because sometimes we fail to make a decision and then we make a decision error. Example, assumption training will be good. And actually training is good. No difference. Null hypothesis, p-value greater than 0.05. And you are giving me the feedback that training is not good. Are you in sync with the statistical decision? Answer is no. What your stats is telling, your practical decision is not like that. There is a difference. And such kind of decision when you take, actually there is a null hypothesis. There is no difference. But you are telling there is a difference means you are saying it's a alternate. So whenever you say null to alternate, this is a type 1 error, or sometimes we call as an alpha error as well. This is called type 1 error or alpha error. Maybe a second case, your assumption is training will be good, but actually training is not good. So there is a difference. It's an alternate hypothesis and p-value is less than or equal to 0.05. I ask you feedback and you are saying training is good. So when it is not good and you are saying it's a good, opposite you are doing again. So this time there is a difference and you are saying there is no difference, which means alternate hypothesis. You are saying it's a null hypothesis, alternate to null. Then this is called as a type 2 error or beta error. And whenever we take statistical decision, we always try to avoid the decision error. Okay? We always try to avoid the decision error. Question? So we write our hypothesis like as first we make any assumption. After making the assumption, we validate that with the data. Even after validating the data, we will see either we are making any decision error or not. So in case we are making any decision error, it may be type 1 or type 2. Type 1 will be when there is a null hypothesis, but you are telling it's an alternate. And type 2 will be when there is an alternate hypothesis and you are saying no, it's a null. Question, people. Last 2 point, Kamran. Here I am taking a decision error, which means I am taking the opposite decision what my data is telling. In this case, data is telling training is good, and that was your assumption. But you are giving the feedback training is not good, which means you are not following the statistics what your statistics is telling. Stat is telling that there is no difference, but you are saying there is a difference. Then this is called your type 1 error or alpha error. In the second case, when there is a difference, alternate hypothesis, because assumption was training will be good and actually training is not good. So there is a difference, which is an alternate hypothesis. P-value is less than or equal to 0.05. And you are saying training is good. That means opposite again. So this is your type 2 error or beta error. In simple word, whenever there is a null hypothesis, you are saying it's a alternate, then type 1 error. Whenever there is an alternate hypothesis and you say it's a null, then it's a type 2 and the beta error. Question? Gulistan, you want to speak?
Yes, sir. I want to. I have understand all which you explained, but the last two things when we are getting this feedback, how we will come to know that this feedback is as per the null to alternate or alternate to null, and
Okay.
And how will we will decide that this feedback is like this?
You are the owner. You are doing the data analysis. Correct? Now, how do you like the training? Are you feeling that training is good? Gulistan?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And I am sending you the feedback form and you are writing in the feedback, no, you did not like the training. Is it not the same situation?
Yes, sir.
So then you are making error because your statistical data is telling that everything is good. But practically you are saying that no, this is not good.
Copy, sir.
Clear?
Yes.
So similar way, suppose what kind of work you do in the industry? Let me relate to that example.
That is the engineering, sir.
Maintenance?
Yes, sir. Maintenance engineering.
Okay. You are a maintenance engineer, right?
Sir.
Okay. Let's say you have done a machine maintenance and you are asking production. Now your machine is working well. You can take and check it. Production is running the machine and production people are telling, yes, machine is working fine. So this is the case 1 when there is no error. Because you proved machine is working fine and actually machine is working fine. So there is no issue.
Yes, sir.
Second case, maybe you have done the maintenance and you was feeling no, machine is not working fine. Production run that machine, and they are also saying, yes, machine is not working fine. So then again, there is no error. They are giving the same feedback.
Yes, sir.
Now you have done the maintenance and finding that machine is working well, but the production is telling, no, machine is not working. You did not do the maintenance well. There is an issue in this.
Yes.
Then it is an error because they are not giving you the correct feedback. So this is a type 1 error or alpha error. Clear?
Yes, sir. No, great, sir.
Now maybe machine did not work well when they do the testing because somebody in the production is your friend and they are saying, no, I don't want to give the wrong feedback. Let's do. And they have signed the agreement or maybe copy or something. And they are saying, yes, machine is working very well. There is no issue. Actually, it was not working.
Yes, sir.
So then it's a type 2 error or a beta error.
Yes, sir.
So
No,
our
yes.
objective is we should always avoid making the business decision error. This is what our objective is. Now you got the answer or is still doubt?
Sir, now it is clear, sir. Now it
Clear?
is very
Okay.
clear, sir.
Any question from anyone, people? Yes, Jisan, you can speak.
Thank you. I have just one query about the p-values. Do we have to assume or we have to fix this? This is some type of a scale. P
Generally, if you
is equal to
remember,
0.05.
I was telling that we work on the 95% confidence level. Remember that?
Yes. Okay. I remember. Sorry.
So
It's
there
okay.
is a
Got it.
no problem. I will just
Got it.
write here. So confidence level, if it is 95%,
Yes,
so
clearly.
how?
Remember.
So we are taking the risk 1 minus confidence, so 5%. 5% we can write as a 5 with the percentage, or if I write into the number, then I will say 0.05. So this value is 0.05 or 5%, which is the risk level. That's how it will come. In case you are using 90% here, so risk level will be 10% or 0.10. So then this value you will be reading as in 0.10. Right? So, or in case, let me write all value. You understand that your risk level, actually your confidence level is 99%. Then your risk level will be 1%. That's how this p-value will come, and we decide it should be 0.05, 0.02, 0.10, 0.01 or any other number. This will come from here. By default, statistics works at the 95% of the confidence level. Okay. What is p-value in the risk? Musabbin, you did not get the answer yet.
Well, I understood what you just said and described.
Okay.
But when you were explaining the confidence level with the risk level, you were basically comparing the p-value with risk.
Yes.
So I missed that point. Is the risk value the same as the p-value, or what does it correlate with the risk?
Okay. We are trying to find out the probability of the risk. Let's say I will take another example. You must have ride a new bicycle in your childhood. Maybe somebody gifted, your parents bought a new bicycle and you was riding that. Agree? And maybe you got a new bicycle and you are riding somewhere and suddenly your friend comes. So when your friend comes and your friend is asking, no, Musabbin, I wanted to ride this cycle. and you are scared. Today only bought a cycle. You love your cycle and you really don't want to give it to your friend. But your friend is so close, you cannot deny as well. You said, okay, please write carefully. Now you wanted to win the confidence that your friend is riding that cycle carefully or not. So what you will do? Probably when your friend is riding the cycle, probably couple of meter, you will hold the cycle and you will run with that. Which means you have assumed a risk. If total distance is 100 meter, probably you will be running with the cycle at the 5 meter. And if you gain the confidence, you will leave the cycle, which means you are crossing the 5% of risk. What you have assumed that your friend know how to ride a cycle, actually friend is riding the cycle and friend is crossing the risk level of the 5%. And now for the rest of the 95% is the green zone. Many a time when you say somebody is asking and that person is not able to ride the cycle well, and the person is probably, let's say, struggling to hold the cycle or maybe vibrating or zigzag it is doing. So then immediately say, no, I cannot give you, please stop here only. That means you could not cross the risk level. Before you could cross the 5% of the risk level, you stop the process there only because I cannot continue more risk. That is what is the decision error. You take the right decision and the time, if you feel that yes, it will go, then it is a no error when you are going with this. But if you are feeling it will go and before that only you are stopping, then it's a type 1 error. And when you are feeling it will not go, but still you are not stopping, then it is a type 2 error. Now clear?
Yes, sir, it's clear now.
Okay, great. Any more question, people, from any one of you? No? All right. Now we are going to learn about the data properties. So with the help of hypothesis, whenever you get any data, numeric form of the data, we always check the normality of the data, randomness of the data, or independence of the data. So normality check when we do, our assumption from the data is that data will be normal. The normality check we do based on the AD test or Anderson-Darling test. There were two statisticians, Anderson and Darling, and they discovered these statistics. And that is called as an Anderson-Darling test. Right? So Anderson-Darling test says when you are doing the normality, if the probability value, data, I will say data is normally distributed if the p-value is greater than 0.05. Or data will be non-normal if the p-value is less than or equal to 0.05 for probability test or Anderson-Darling test. So what is the normality means? Normality means the distribution of the data is a bell-shaped data, which means mean value of the data, which is the average, is equal to median is equal to mode. Mean value of the data is equal to median is equal to mode. So statistically, if I create a table, this says that percent of data fits within given standard deviation from the average value or from the mean value. So what percent of data will fit within the given standard deviation from the average value? Basis on that, they give the calculation. Let's say, assume your average value, and here is the standard deviation. Suppose your productivity, quality, production, dimension for any data, let's say assume it is maybe 80. And the standard deviation of your process is, let's say, 2.5. Now you have to see how many times standard deviation, which can be 1 time, 2 time, or 3 time. So if your mean value remain 80, standard deviation remain 2.5. So what is the value of times standard deviation? If you say 2.5 into 1, it is 2.5. Or 2.5 into 2, it is 5. Or 2.5 into 3, it is 7.5. Based on this, we find out the lower range from the mean and the upper range from the mean value. So the lower value is the mean value minus 1 time of standard deviation, or mean value minus 2 time or 3 time of standard deviation. And I will calculate the upper value of this, which is mean plus 1 time of standard deviation, or 2 time or 3 time. So these values are giving me the statistical range. Like a 77.5 to 82.5 is 1 time standard deviation. 75.75 to 85 is the 2 time standard deviation. And 72.5 to 87.5 is the 3 time of standard deviation. Right? And I'll say how much percent data will fit within this given range is we can identify with a Excel formula as well. Like as let's say I put the formula norm dist. X value is what? I am looking from the 77.5. Mean value is 80. Standard deviation is 2.5. And cumulative is 1 or the 100%. This is your lower side. Upper side, if I calculate with the same formula, so norm dist, X value is 82.5, mean value is 80, standard deviation is 2.5, cumulative is 1. And this value I got 84.5. And the difference of these two values, this is this minus this, which is 68.27%. So it says approximately 68.27% of data should fall within plus or minus 1 standard deviation from the mean. Then it is a normally distributed data. Similarly, if I calculate for the 2 standard deviation, so these are the values and the difference here. So 95.45% data should fall within plus or minus 2 standard deviation from the mean, like as this is the range 75 to 85. Or if I calculate this value for the 3 time of standard deviation, so this value will be like as 99.73. Exactly in the same way, if I calculate this value for the 4 time of standard deviation, right? So this data value will be 99.99 and so on I can calculate. So if this much of number of the values are falling within the given standard deviation, then we can say this data is normally distributed. Ask me question now. How to decide data is normal or not normal?
Can I ask the question, sir?
Yes, sir. Please ask me.
Sir, I have the query, the time of the standard deviation, sir. Times. What do you mean by the times of the standard deviations?
Current variation of the process assuming 2.5. If I do 1 time of 2.5, that value will be 2.5 only, right?
Sir.
And from the mean value, lower side will be minus 2.5. 80 minus 2.5 is 77.5. And 80 plus 2.5 is 82.5. Between the lower and upper range, 68.27% data should fit to call this as a normally distributed data.
Yes, sir.
In case I say I am increasing the variability of my process, I am saying 2 time of standard deviation. So 2.5 into 2 is 5.
Yes, sir.
80 minus 5 is 75. Or
Yes.
80 plus 5 is 85. So between 75 and 85, at least 95.14% data should fall. I am taking as a standard deviation now. Any way you take any random value. Now I take a random example. Tell me what is your productivity. Any value, random number. Maybe your productivity is 92.6%. Agree?
Sir.
With a variation of maybe 2.8. And you are looking for maybe, let's say, 3 standard deviation time. So it is simply saying that if your current average is 92 and your standard deviation 2.8, which means 3 time of standard deviation 8.4. So the 92.6 minus 8.4 will be 84.2. And 92 plus 8.4 will be 101. So productivity percentage cannot be 100, more than 100.
Yes, sir.
It will be up to 100. So simple demand is that at least 97.73% of time you should be greater than 84.2. Then only your data will be the bell-shaped data or the normal data. Like this.
Sir.
If it is not, then data will not be a bell shape. It may be skewed data or maybe the kurtosis data.
Yes, sir. No, please.
Clear? All right.
Yes, sir.
And you can change any value, any standard deviation, any time. Suppose you want to say, no, I want to say only 2.5 times. Or let's say 1.5 time of standard deviation. So all the value automatically calculated. Now it is saying between 88.4 and 96.8, at least 86% data should fall. Then you will say data is normal. So it will depend when the actual standard deviation you are calculating, whatever the standard deviation is and how many times you want to see, you can find out this value in the Excel. Minitab is not capable in doing that.
Right.
Any more question, people, about this? No? All right. So this is your called normality. Now let me generate some data. Simple. Let's say random data. I think I generated somewhere before baseline data, time to office. I copy this data and paste in the Minitab. I think it's already there. And here you can see the p-value of the Anderson-Darling test we have done. And p-value is how much? Less than 0.05. So this data, if the p-value is less than 0.05, then data will be not normal data. Muneem, how this data is? So let's say I'll just copy this data value. You see here, mean value is 27.44. Median value is 27. And actually there is no mode. So you can see these values are approximately same mean and median. And that's how this curve is coming, almost normal, but actually not normal because your p-value is less than 0.05. So you can see the data seems to be little skewed because this curve is going like this and tail is on the right side. I feel it's a positively skewed data, and you can see skewness is little high, 0.18. Our kurtosis is minus 1.41. Still it is within the specification, but because of the values are low or less values I have, so it is showing a not normal distribution here. Clear or doubt? Generally for a normal data, your mean value is approximately median, is approximately mode, and there is no significant skewness, there is no significant kurtosis. In case there is a skewness or there is a kurtosis, then this data is not normally distributed. And normality testing plays a really important role in the business. You will learn that in the hypothesis testings when I will explain the data validation further. Now we have identified my data is normal. Second check on a data before I proceed for the analysis, I will do with the randomness. So the randomness check we do with the help of run chart. Run chart will come with the 4 properties, which is mixture, oscillation, cluster, and trend. I will say that my data is randomly distributed when p-value for mixture, oscillation, cluster, and trend all greater than 0.05. Then the data is random. Or data may be not random if the p-value is less than or equal to 0.05. This is what we do. So let's understand what is the mixture, oscillation, cluster, and trend. I draw a line. This is the center line. And maybe I will put some data points into this. Let's say these are your data point. One, few data point I will create just like that. And now let me copy and paste this everywhere. Oh. So what is the mixture? Mixture means the data which you have collected is almost equally distributed on both the center line, both the side of the center line, and they are almost in the same distance away. Like this. Generally, you have seen that there are two people in your team. One person is doing very well, right? Like as against the target of 10, this person is doing 15. So average value or target is 10, this person is making 15 transaction. Second person is doing only 5 transaction. So on an average, you are doing 15 tasks. Sorry, 15 here on the top and 5 on the bottom, and average value are meeting 10. So many a time, just looking at the average may not be the right thing. We have to see from the randomness perspective, either this is really good mismatch data or not. So we will be checking that if my data is random with respect to mixture or not. So generally if the values, maybe you have average you are meeting 10, but with the one set of the value is 5, second set of the value is 15, they are making average, may not be necessary then every time your process is doing good. Okay. That's how we identify with the help of mixture. Oscillation. Oscillation means when data is following some kind of waves, like as you are collecting the data on a continuous basis and data is following such kind of pattern. This is called oscillation, like as this. If there is a significant oscillation present, right? If there is a significant oscillation present, that means data is not random. And this will be based on the p-value. If p-value is greater than 0.05, there is no significant oscillation. But if the p-value is less than or equal to 0.05, there is a significant oscillation present. Cluster means data is coming in the group. Maybe the one group is here. Maybe another group is created here, like this. Maybe the third group is sometime here, or maybe another fourth group, like say here, like this. So if such kind of groups your data is making, coming at a specific group, at a specific place, then this is called cluster. Trend, when your data values are either in increasing order, like this, or maybe data values are in a decreasing order. Any pattern they are following, then it is a trend. So anywhere, if the p-value of your data is less than 0.05 for any one of the property, then data is not random. And if all the p-values are greater than 0.05, if all the p-values are greater than 0.05, then data is random. Question, people. Ask me, please. No? All right. Now let me plot this run chart in the Minitab. So
May
here
I
is
ask
your
a question?
yes, please ask me.
Can you show the screen? Excel sheet?
Ask me, please, Sabin.
Yeah, I was asking if you can show the Excel sheet that you just because you have opened the Minitab. Yeah. So we were discussing about the randomness, and the data would be considered random if the p-value is greater than 0.05.
Hmm.
And if the data is random, then we will be checking what kind of randomness is it. Is it mixture, oscillation, cluster, or trend? And
Right.
based on the randomness. And if the value is less than 0.05, then there is no randomness, and we would not be checking
Reverse.
oscillation, mixture, or
Reverse.
anything.
Reverse. If data is random, then p-value will be greater than 0.05. In case p-value comes less than 0.05, then we'll say data is not random. And data is not random means it's a special cause. And our objective is to find out a special cause in the data. That's what is the meaning.
And if the value is 0.05, it's a special cause, and we would not be checking the mixture, oscillation, cluster, or trend of the data. No? We
No,
would be
no, no.
checking
Bhai.
only.
You are mixing two things. First, we have checked the normality with the help of Anderson-Darling test.
Okay.
Clear? This is the one part of the test. Now, same data I will use and I will check, okay, data is normal. I got it with the Anderson-Darling test. I will use the same data to check the randomness as well. So normality I checked before. Now I will be checking the randomness. So data was normal or not normal, I decided. Now I will decide data is random or not random. These are the two different things. Clear now?
Okay.
Okay. So let's do practical. Suppose this is the data I have. I wanted to plot a run chart for this. Stat, quality tools. And the first option is the run chart. Single column, select your data. Subgroup size 1. That's all. Click on OK. And now you will see in the bottom, these are the 4 properties are given. Mixture, oscillation, cluster, and trend. Do you see this data is random? Yes or no? Anyone? Is this data random?
It seems to be random in the case of clustering, mixture, and trend, but the p-value in the case of oscillation is less than 0.05.
Yes. Absolutely correct. And in case any p-value is less than 0.05, anyone, then entire data will be not random. And this data is not random because of the oscillation. Oscillation means you will see data values are making up and down, and this is significant in this. That's how this is the oscillation, as I was explaining you, if you remember the Excel sheet. When data values are making ups and down, like as these waves they are making, then it is a oscillation. So significant oscillation present in this data, and because of that, data is not random. That's how we check it. And any such case if we have, so we will be investigating this further, and based on the investigation we will be deciding that next decision, how to take a practical decision. Another thing which we'll be checking is independence of the data. So independence of the data we check based on the control chart rules. Or we also called as in Shewart rule. Because Walter A. Shewart was the person who discovered these rules. So based on his name, we call these as in Shewart rule. Okay. What it says, suppose this is your data. Right? And I will plot independence means eye chart on this. So we'll go to stat, control chart for individual and eye chart. Here is the office, time to office data. We will go to the eye chart options, test, and perform all the tests for the special cause of variation. Right? Let me copy and paste these rules for your reference. So these are the 8 rules which we need to follow in the independence. Now, if I plot this control charts here, click on OK. All the rules I have selected, click on OK. And now I see the data. So actually none of the rule is failing here. But still I'll explain you that how, in case any rule will fail, so how this will look like. So rule number 1, it is saying 1 point greater than k standard deviation from the center line. And the value of k is 3. Right? This is your center line. And this is your upper 3 standard deviation line. And this is your lower standard 3 standard deviation line. In case any data point will go outside this line, either on the upper side or on the lower side, then the rule number 1 will fail. There is a special cause of variation. Rule number 2, k point in a row on the same side of the center line. If you have continuously 9 data points on the same side, either on the lower side the average, which is the green line, or above the average line, then the rule number 2 will fail. There will be any special cause of variation. Rule number 3, k point in a row on increasing or decreasing order. If continuously 6 data points, like as this is here, this is here, this is here, 3 are decreasing, maybe you have 4, 5 or 6 like this. If continuously 6 data points are there in increasing or decreasing order, then the rule number 3 will fail. There will be any special cause. So you need not to worry about which rule is failing and which is not failing. In case there is any special cause, it will automatically identify which rule is failing here. All right. And it will show in the red color dot. I will show you maybe one example. Let's say here. Let's say any one rule. If I show you in the min tab, let's say rule number 1. Maybe this value is currently how much? Value is 30 at 80 and value is 33 for the upper control limit. So if I want to make it 18 value 30 to 40, then it will go outside the control limit and automatically These rules, I have all the tests I selected. So it will show in the red color dot and the explanation will be written in the bottom. So anytime any of the rule will fail, it will automatically identify that. You can see here that which rule is failing. Rule number 7 is failing and the rule number 1 is failing. These are the two rules failing. What is rule number 1? Any 1 point more than 3 standard deviation from the center line, which is this. This is your 3 standard deviation line and this is outside the 3 standard deviation line. So rule number 1 fails here. Rule number 7, 15 points within a 1 standard deviation from the center line. If continuously 15 data points, they are very close to the data center line, then it's a rule number 7 will fail. And that's how the explanation is given here. And the rule number is red color dot is showing here. This is the way we identify that which rule is failing. I hope it is clear to everyone, people. It will Minitab has the identification capability. It will identify which rule is failing and automatically explain in the bottom, like this has explained for you. Question, ask me please. Rule number 4, K point in a row alternating up and down. If continuously 14 data point, 1 is up, 2nd is down, 3rd is up, 4th is down, 5th is up, 6th is down, 7th is up, 8th is down, like this. All the data points are up and down is happening, then the rule number 4 will fail. So like can be, maybe here you go down, up, up. Like this. If it is happening up and down, then the rule number 4 will fail. Rule number 5, K out of K plus 1 greater than 2 standard deviation from the center line. K out of K plus 1 greater than 2 standard deviation from the center line. So suppose here is the 1 standard deviation line and this is here is the 2 standard deviation line and this is already 3 standard deviation line. Similarly on the upper side, like this, right? So K out of K plus 1, if 2 data point of 3 data point outside the 2 standard deviation, let's assume like as these are the 2 data point, these 2 out of this is your 3rd, right? So like this, if it is happening outside the 2 standard deviation line, then this rule number 5 will fail. This is a special cause of variation. Rule number 6, if the same condition follow, K out of K plus 1 greater than 1 standard deviation. And here is the K value is given as a 4. So if you have the 4 data point out of 5 outside the 1 standard deviation line on the same side, then the rule number 6 will fail. That's the special cause of variation. Rule number 7, K point in a row within 1 standard deviation of the center line, which is 15. So suppose this is your 1 standard deviation line, like as 7 number data point, anyway it is failing in the last example, you can see here, which means continuously 15 data points are very close to the center line. They are falling within plus or minus 1 standard deviation line. Then the rule number 7 is failing. Rule number 8, K point in a row greater than 1 standard deviation from the center line. If you have the 8 data point continuously, they are more than 1 standard deviation from the center line, Example, if this is your one standard deviation line, and like as this 1, 2, 3, 4, even you have the 8 data point which is outside this, like as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, or maybe this is the 8. If that situation happen on the either side, rule number 8 will fail. That's a special cause of variation. And whenever there is a special cause of variation, we must investigate and fix them. This is what we do. So Salman, yes, your question now. I'm done with this.
Yeah, okay. My question is that it means that Minitab is a mandatory tool for us to find out the randomness and
Kind of, yes, because Minitab is the only tool which will help you to identify the randomness, independence, or normality. And there is a
Yes.
many other tool and technique we are going to learn. Everything you cannot do in Excel because there is a lot of statistics behind, and you cannot put formula for everything. And that's the reason we have the Minitab.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Any more question, people? No? All right. So these are about the data properties. Now the next topic is I am going to pick up once we understood the data. I think these are the 4 things which is not for you. Let me tell you directly about the root cause type. So our objective is to identify the root cause of a process, right? But how many type of root cause you know about? What is the type of root cause? Root cause is what is the source of the problem, from where the problem is occurring. That is called root cause. And we know that we go through the multiple phases. We have the define, measure, analyze, improve, and control. 4 phases we have, right? And there is a mainly 3 type of root cause we call as an PRC, VRC, and ARC. PRC we say in the measure phase, VRC in the analyze phase, and ARC is in the improve phase. PRC stands for probable root cause. PRC stands for probable root cause. So the probable root cause we identify with the help of fishbone or brainstorming, which we identify in the measure phase of a Six Sigma project. In analyze phase, we identify the validated root cause. These all the root cause what is probable. Maybe you identified 15. Suppose. And when you go for the validation with the help of hypothesis testing, you will be using the hypothesis here. Probably you left only with the, let's say, 11 root cause was validated that your data is supporting, and 4 of them data is saying no, these are not the real root cause. In improve phase, we go for the actionable root cause, which means which are the root cause we can take action. Because many of the root cause will be there. They are impacting your output, but you cannot do anything of that. Like as something is required with the huge budget, there are few things which need lot of, like as let's say client approval. Many of the things need the approval from the government or the authorities, right? So many a time those things may not work. So we do the prioritization that which are the root cause I can really work upon. Those are called as civil root cause. Maybe you left with the, let's say 6. 11 root cause which has the impact on your y variable or output variable, but you cannot take any action on the 5 of them. So you left with the 6 where you can take the action. So these are the 3 stages of any root cause. That's how we identify. Ask me question before I proceed further. Yes, Jishan. Ask me.
Thank you very much. I missed the points from where the 15, 11, 6 are coming.
I just assumed, I was telling that suppose you have identified 15 reasons that may have impact on your output variable. You will validate with the hypothesis, like as we have learned about the statistical data validation, all these things. And after validation, you identify that 4 of them has no relationship with the output variable. So we will be dropping these 4 and we'll continue with the 11. Even when you have validated 11, there are few things which has come where your client is saying no. You understand these are the things impacting your productivity. But client is saying no, I will not give the go ahead for this. I don't have budget, I don't have resources and so many things. So because of that, you are dropping them. And that's how we left with only 6 out of 15 that we can take action. This is what?
Yes, thank you. Yes, it's clear now.
Okay.
There's a conical, like a conical key
Yep.
diagram. Yes.
Funneling you are doing. So
Yes,
you
funneling.
started with the big picture and slowly you are dragging it down into the smaller picture. Like this you are doing. Okay. Any more question, people? No? All right. The next thing you should be learning about. Oh, next is the technical thing. So I think we should take a break now. And then I will explain you about the measurement system analysis. Is that okay with everyone? So we'll be taking a 25 minutes of break. Before, in case anyone of you have any question, you can ask me. Otherwise, we'll be taking a break now for the measurement before we go for the MSc. And then I'll explain you the MSc followed by the process capability. Yes, OS, you can speak.
Hello, sir. My question is from the previous sheet where you explained about the 8 rules. Can you open that, please, for me?
Yes, please.
Yeah, on the left. Yes, please.
Ask me.
So these 8 rules and K values are already defined on the left.
Mm-hmm.
So my question is, who has decided these rules and validated either through some research or kind of, are these applicable to any kind of project, or we can have our own rules added to this also?
We should not have. We can have, but we should not have. And Mr. Shewart is the one, Walter A. Shewart, who has identified the SPC culture in 1920. He is the one statistician who defined these rules, and still nobody could challenge them statistically. We are blindly following these rules because these rules are so robust.
100 years past.
Yes. Even 104 years, still we did not challenge them. That robust they are.
Okay.
That's the background.
Okay.
Clear?
Thank you.
Okay. Let me put the timer, people, and I'll see you in 25 minutes from now. Thank you so much.